So I've been planning to bring you my chai recipe for quite a while now, and today is the only day that I can actually film this video, so I need to get it in quick, but also because today it seems to be the only break we're going to get in the weather all week, I also want to go for a walk on the coast path. So I thought I'd combine the two. I'm going to make myself this chai and then I'm going to take it out onto the coast path and take you along with me. So this means that this is a video of two parts. If you're just here for the recipe, then fabulous. We're about to get right into that. But for the rest of you, if you just want to kick back and relax, then I hope you'll join me in the second half of the video as we go for a little wander. Now, before we get into the actual recipe itself, this does come with a little bit of a warning. If you are somebody with a very hot constitution, so if you're always feeling flushed or you're always the hottest person in the room, or perhaps you get night sweats or maybe nightmares when you're too hot, that kind of thing, if you tend to be hot, then beware that all of these spices that we're going to use today are incredibly heating. So I would therefore limit the amount of this that you drink and the frequency that you drink it. I personally am a very hot person, and I actually got night sweats after drinking this recipe for 4 days on the trot. Not great. However, on the flip side of that, if you're somebody with a very cold constitution, so you know you get cold hands and feet all the time, or you've always got to have the electric blanket on, or you're always piling more blankets on the bed and you're always putting more layers on than anyone else in the room, then this could well be your miracle brew. This is going to warm you up from the inside out. And I was first introduced to chai by a very good friend of mine, Phil, that I backpacked through New Zealand with. And Phil would carry in his backpack, wherever we went, this little roll of spices. And whenever we'd stop and have somewhere with a kitchen, he would pull out a pan and he'd throw in a little bit of this and a little pinch of that, and he would make the most delicious chai. Now, unfortunately, I got back in touch with Phil a couple of years ago and I asked him for his recipe, which he never wrote down and he couldn't remember what it was. Oh, we are talking like 20 years ago. So it's kind of been my mission ever since to try and get my chai to taste how his chai did. This is as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned. Now, I've never been to India. Whether this is authentic chai or not, I'm afraid is outside of my remit. This is the flavours that I enjoy, and as with every recipe out there, you need to adapt it to suit your taste buds and to make your taste buds happy. So without further ado, let's crack on and I'll show you how I make my chai. So the first thing to do is to measure out your water. You just want to measure it out in the cup you're ideally going to drink from, and you just want to use cold water straight into the pan. Now I'm going to add about 3-inch piece of cinnamon and break the cinnamon stick up so you kind of smash it up into smaller pieces. 3 cardamom pods. 3 peppercorns. 2 cloves. Now you can add more cloves than that, and a lot of people do. It's just out of all these spices, the cloves are my least favourite, ever since I bit into a piece of ham that still had a clove stuck in it, and it got stuck in my tooth, and it was the most revolting experience. I could not get this piece of clove out of my tooth. It was horrendous. So I'm always very, very wary of this stuff ever since. So I'm using 2, you use as many as you like. And the nice thing with this recipe is that over time, you might add a little bit more of this, but a little bit less of that. So go with it and find your perfect flavours. About 1/2 inch of fresh ginger root, which I'm just going to slice into little discs. This just kind of expands the surface area of the ginger, so you're going to get more flavour and goodness from it. Now, on top of those spices, you're also going to need some black tea. I'm being a complete heathen and I'm using a PG Tips tea bag. Ideally, I guess you would be using loose leaf black tea, but honestly, a tea bag is fine. Now, I don't put this in until the end because tea is very astringent. If you've ever had a sip of dark black tea, it kind of strips the moisture from your mouth. That's astringency. And by putting this in at the beginning of the boiling process or the cooking process, you're actually going to make your tea or your chai very bitter and very astringent. So I personally like to put this in at the end for that reason. I don't want to be boiling my tea. And And you're also going to need honey. About a teaspoon is ideal. You can try chai without honey, but for me it is part of the whole flavour. And one last thing to mention is that I have tried making chai with ground spices, so ground cardamom, ground cinnamon, ground cloves. Don't do it. It's horrible. You can't strain it enough and you end up like drinking a gritty sludge. It's foul. Don't go there. Please use whole spices and I promise you the flavours will blow your mind. Okay, so you're going to pop all your spices into the saucepan and you're going to simmer gently for anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes. You're going to get a completely different flavour if you go for 10 minutes over if you go for 30. Again, you need to play around with these times and find out which your taste buds prefer. Now, once you take your spices off the heat, what you need to do next is add in some milk. Now, I'm using almond milk because I'm lactose intolerant, but cow's milk is absolutely fine if that's your flavour. And you just want to pour in probably 2, 3, maybe 4 tablespoons. Some people make chai just with milk and no hot water. Personally, I find that too cloying. I don't enjoy that. I prefer making it with water and adding milk, but each to their own. Add the tea bag and the honey and then let steep for a minute or 2 before straining through a sieve. Okay, now we're going to head off on that little walk to Polperro, and Polperro is a very quaint, historic little fishing village. So if you're not familiar with Cornwall and you've never been to Polperro, then you are about to have your mind blown. This place is just stunning. It's absolutely gorgeous. If ever there was a village that should be on a box of chocolates, it's Polperro. I hope you enjoy the rest of this video and I'll catch up with you next week. Take care.